Hey bike farmers, thanks for clicking in. I got it all wrong with this bike and it's really been bugging me. So the last video I put out was working on this Trek 520 and we did some bottom bracket crank stuff. And in the video, I admitted that I was making some guesses and that I think I got it right. And so many of you in the comments told me, no dude, you got it totally wrong. And you are right. I got it wrong. So here I am wrong. I am sorry. I called the customer. I apologized. I'm like, I think I made a mistake. Could be a safety concern. I don't think it's really all that dangerous, but if you could please bring the bike back to me, I want to make it right. So it is an interesting set of problems, and it really does speak to, as bikes have progressed through history, they become more and more complicated and more compatibility issues, and there's mountain versus road, and it's kind of like exponential complexity that, I don't know. I mean, I sound like an old curmudgeon. I get it. You know, I just saw a lot of comments like I should know these things or whatever, and it's like, should I? Really? Should I just know everything? It didn't show in the video, but I did actually Google it, and I still thought that I got it pretty right. But there's a safety tab that I've never even known about. I didn't even know it was there. I've always just plowed through it. I've been missing it my whole life. I guess they've been around for a while. So I ordered a new safety tab. I want to replace that. And then the spacing is wrong, and it's kind of complicated and interesting. So we're going to talk about that and other things and why it's bugging me and what I'm doing about it. And thank you for everyone that was very supportive and helpful. Those of you that just came at me critically, like you know better and you're posturing and just were critical for the sake of being critical and being mean, you can suck a fart out of my butt. So first of all, to everyone that said it was painful to watch me remove the crank from this bike, I am so sorry I did that to you. Oh my goodness, your poor feelings. The problem here is that this plastic piece that I've never given much credit to because it's all loosey-goosey and flippity-floppity, and I was like, what the hell is that there for? And I just kind of like gloss over it. Somebody did, you know, they're very rudely said that I should be taking my time and I should be doing my due diligence, all this shoulding. I hate it when people should all over each other. You know, you could just say, like some of the other people that were really nice, is like, there's a safety tab here and it does serve a purpose and you missed it. You didn't know it was there. It's pretty common that people don't know it's there, according to everything that I've read online. But this safety tab does serve a purpose. It's not just for safety, it's also for setup and setting preload. So thank you to those that pointed it out. It's actually just fine to leave it out of the equation as long as you get everything else right. Shimano basically just put it there as a CYA measure because if you don't get these bolts tightened properly, which I knew about, and then I use the torque wrench and a lot of people don't, so I'm not a complete hack. It's just a stupid design, I think. I think Hollowtech too. I've thought that all along, and I'm not just being defensive. They tend to back off on themselves if you don't get it right. And this little safety plate serves the purpose of catching it before it comes completely off while you're descending down a mountain and die. Oh, dropped a preload cap. Okay, so if you notice here, I've got just a little bit of, I don't know, what do you call that? Spline? What's the opposite of spline showing? So this thing opens up, right? Some people say you gotta remove this entire bolt, but somewhere along the way, okay, so there's this little seal, okay, so that's still there. That's good. Anyway, there is, in the safety tab, this little hole here, that safety tab comes down and there's a little pin that hooks into that hole. Now it's not a tight fit, it's a loose fit. But as long as you have that in there, you're in the ballpark. It's the good enough ballpark from what I can understand. The other thing I need everyone to understand is what I'm doing here on YouTube is trying to provide you with good content. I do that for you, I do that for me, and I do it for the algorithm. And part of good content is doing things like using gigantic hammers and saying die, 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 die when you use them, because it's fun. Okay? I was also criticized for not cleaning the spindle up. Doesn't matter a whole lot, but there, I just wiped it off. It's just grease, people. It wasn't all rust. I didn't need, I don't know, 4/0 steel wool for X number of seconds and blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't know. Some people really got super technical about how to clean a spindle. Not that big of a deal. So in here is this kind of dust protector sleeve, and it does have like rubber grommets and everything. Theoretically, it seals everything up on the inside. Now, this is what's called Hollowtech 2. This is Hollowtech 2. And I looked up the part number here, the FC M543. This is kind of an entry level, but very practical. It's got a nice chain guard on it, good touring crankset, but it's a mountain crankset. And mountain versus road is this spindle length. And it's also, when you have the bottom bracket and everything put on it, right, this thing's supposed to fit tight inside there. Now, and then the road ones are a different size. So Tiagra, 105, Ultegra, and so on are going to be different than all of the different mountain ones. Now, there's also mountain and road bottom bracket bearings. Here's the old one. It says mountain on it. This one says road on it somewhere. I never knew that there was a difference between the two, but there is. And that difference is approximately 2 millimeters. Okay, the road bearing cup is 2 millimeters, and there's slightly fewer threads. So there's more threads here and less width that way. Okay, now they do that because road bikes tend to be 68 millimeter bottom bracket widths, and mountain tends to be 73. So this bike from the factory, I presume, came with mountain cranks and mountain bearings, which is correct, and the appropriate amount of spacers on either side. And that was to make it so that seal on the inside worked. Now, I forgot to show you before I took this all apart, but then you also have chain line issues, and it's like how far the cranks and like Q factor and all that, it's how far the cranks are from the stays. That's what I was focused on, and I still think that's important to pay attention to, because I don't think how it was to begin with was as good as it could be. And I'm not saying I'm smarter than Trek engineers. They are smarter than me. They know more about this stuff. They are the experts, and as we know, I respect the experts. However, the whole design of everything is just kind of dumb and limiting, in my opinion. And I think overall, it should be easier to do all of this and have either fewer options or more options and room for adjustability. Anyway, I'm going to take this off, I think, without losing my shot. Yes, I am a little butthurt about all the criticism and heat I took for this, but it's not because I was wrong. I don't feel like I'm super defensive. I'm a little defensive, but overall, I love the criticism, not the criticism. I like the helpful comments saying, hey, you missed this thing. You know, that's a thing in the world that we should be paying attention to. You just didn't know. Because not knowing something doesn't make me stupid. I made a couple comments that were like, you can be critical or you can be helpful. You choose. And somebody said, I will always choose to be critical of someone who should have known better. And that's just fine. Everyone's entitled to their own opinions. However, that makes you an asshole. There's no way around it. You're just a frickin' prick if that's how you think. You know, if you get off on being mean to people, it just pretty much means you're either really an insecure weenie, which is really what it is, and can only get self-worth out of bullying, or if you know better, just be helpful. Hey, wouldn't that be great? Okay, so I'm just kind of playing around here for my own understanding. So that does seal up pretty good in there, right? And this is another one I have. So this one's a little bit wider. Is it? Or is it skinnier? I suppose we could measure. Okay, so if this is all put together, this is the old one, right? Let's get that out of here. Also, I got, there was a comment about like something like using a caliper and that like real mechanics know calipers or something, know how to use calipers. Clearly I don't, because I'm not a real mechanic. Okay, it's really kind of hard to get a good measurement here. I think that comment was because I had used a ruler to measure the bottom bracket width. So that measures to 70 millimeters, right? 70 and a half. Now what I've learned is with the mountain bottom bracket, with skinnier, and especially on the drive side here, there's extra threads to fit the extra spacers. And it's like 2 spacers on one side and 1 on the other, but like this one came with extras. So maybe it was 3 on one side and 1 on the other, but that would put this crank arm way out from that chainstay, and this side was way closer. So like the Q factor, like your legs are in the wrong spot on the bike, and like that just seems wrong to me too. This seems to be shorter. It says road on it. And this says mountain. I think we want the mountain one in there. I'm just kind of wondering what I want to do about the spacing. I want it to be a little bit closer, right? So if it was 71-ish or 70 and a half, I want to get rid of 2 millimeters, which is probably this one. I think I just want to get rid of the spacer on this side. And then, because we're going to be a millimeter short, if you go 73 millimeter bottom bracket shell to 68, that's 5 millimeter difference. And the width of the bearing cups is 2 millimeters difference on each side. So that's 4, leaving 1 millimeter gap that we have to fill. And I think that's this, is 1 millimeter. And somebody said make it a half, which is like, why even bother at that point? Because you're in the good enough zone. Okay, so that is actually the 1.8er. And this is closer to 1 millimeter. It's just a really thin one. I don't know if any of this is making any sense to anyone out there, but I could put, if I had it in stock. I don't have a mountain bottom bracket in stock and do the spacer thing, but I still don't think that's what's best here. And maybe I'm gonna open myself up for some sort of criticism, but I don't think it's best because that's how it was, and I thought it was wrong. Like I thought it was all hacked together because of how the Q factor was all messed up, and it just didn't make any sense to me. All right, so now I'm gonna pull that guy off, get rid of our mountain one so we don't get cups mixed up. We're gonna use the longer dealy hopper. Okay. I'm gonna do that. Actually, I'm gonna do it on the other side. I'm gonna space it on the other side because I want this coming in more. I know that. I forgot to show you that in the beginning. So it's been really hard for me to wrap my brain around all this. But that leaves plenty of thread for this cup on this side too. It's another thing I'm a little worried about. It looked like I was running out of threads, you know, with the spacers in here. I didn't have a whole lot of thread throwing that cup into the frame. And that was my main concern. That and getting the right amount of spline and everything to get that safety tab to fit in there to make sure I was getting a good enough grip so everything wouldn't come flying apart, as this person is doing extreme biking down alpine passes, as one does when they're awesome like me. Unlike you in the comments. I want to give a shout out to Paul from Germany. Go in the comments of that other video and just the way that guy talks, his rhetoric, if English is a second language, the guy's a freaking genius. And he was very just like straightforward and helpful and non-judgmental, you know. It was great. I like that. That's the kind of community I try to foster here. And I'm okay with people making fun of me a little bit. It's just how seriously you take it. Oh, also, like, the fact that there's like bike mechanics. Okay, so it's really hard to measure this, but it's very close. I guess, can I do a measurement that way? All right, like a depth. There's literally guys that like work at bike shops as mechanics and watch bike farmer videos. And it, like, honestly, first of all, get a life. But I could not, I mean, the only reason I can think of that they do that is to find when I make a mistake, just so they can make a comment. So that says 71. I did read somewhere where somebody's like, hey, if you just use road bearings with a mountain crank on a 68 millimeter shell, you got it right. But the books, the math works out where you kind of want a little 0.5 millimeter spacer. So that's what I'm gonna do. There we go. Because that's still measured a little long. Okay, so theoretically, from the inside there to that spacer is gonna be 68 millimeters. Caliper isn't working for me. I'm just gonna do this. Oh yeah. So this is sealed up on the inside. We're gonna tighten things down. I mean, that is 69 millimeters. I'm gonna put that in and look at it and try it. Okay? Coming with me? And, you know, frankly, like, I shouldn't be surprised that there are bicycle mechanics out there that work at a bike shop all day long fixing bikes, and then they go to YouTube and watch other guys fixing bikes just so they can be critical of their work in the comments, because bicycle mechanics are assholes. We've already established that. I built an entire new business on YouTube off of that. You know, now we're also incompetent boobs apparently, because I am a bicycle mechanic and I'm an incompetent boob. Also, when the guy dropped his bike off here, he said, oh my God, does it ride so much better? So I'm like, yeah, I know, but there's all this little nitpicky bullshit going on with your bottom bracket that makes me have to redo all the work. I definitely feel like I should have put this cup on before. Okay, so I have a little, I don't know, 2 point something millimeter spacer on this side. I'm gonna leave that there for a sec. All right, so here's the safety clip. Right there's a little metal pin. That's what I broke off with my hammer, because I'm a brute and a hack. But it's a tiny little pin, and it breaks off, and a lot of people just break them off. I was told that a lot of assemblers will just take these out in assembly for some reason. They're pretty much superfluous, but helpful. And probably nice to have when you need them. But I think it's more like, let's avoid more lawsuits in general. But it's a very delicate little part. I never even really knew it was a thing, and I didn't need to take that one off or out. Okay, so here comes this one. Okay, so yeah, you can see I sheared the pin right off, just like you guys said. Okay, and it came out that way, right? Might as well clean it where we got it apart, huh? Clean it with a clean rag, huh? You know me, I like my dirty rags. Okay. Put some grease on the threads there. Probably should be using thread locker. Oh, my safety tab's all messed up in there now. What did I do? Ay, ay, ay. I'm a mess. That was bass-ackwards. You know, the other thing is I watch a ton of car guys fixing cars on YouTube. And what I'm amazed by is how many millions of car fixing videos there are out there, and how none of them show the exact same thing. I mean, that's not true, but like every time I watch one, I'm like, I'm watching something new, a new part, a new something to consider. You know, cars are so much more complicated with all the, you know, ignition system, cooling system, you know, this and that. And, you know, in my bike mechanic rant videos, people are like, oh, you know, a real mechanic, you know, try fixing cars or whatever, which is pretty much true, but you get into this, like, car guys can't figure this shit out either. So, all right, so apparently that is supposed to work somehow, and I have no idea how or why. Does it snap in there some? You have to push it in, force it somehow? Nope. What the hell? Oh, I bet. Okay, so this is why they said you remove this bolt all the way. Okay, so that goes all the way, which I don't know if you can see down in there, but that puts the pin through the hole and ensures that you got it in the right spot or you've got enough spline. So this one stays out for now. You know, it's just me here at Gibbs Bike Shop and the internet. I don't have other coworkers that have been doing this longer. Like when I worked at the bike shop, anytime I had a question like this, I'd just ask one of the other guys and they'd seen it before, right? But I just got to figure this out on my own, just like you guys. Okay, so get going on that. Yeah, all those insecure, super hypercritical, bully type jackass mechanics out there, it's like they never had to learn anything in their life. They were just born knowing everything or something. Like I'm accused of not being able to take criticism, and it's like, well, no, I'm fine with taking criticism as long as I deserve it, you know? And, you know, really, I guess if I'm charging money for this stuff, I should know what I'm doing. But you don't know what you don't know, you know? Ooh, I think that worked. It's in. It's in, guys. Ha-ha! All right. So I'm gonna stick this bolt in. I'm gonna cross thread this bolt in quick, I think. Nope. I thought it. Yeah, see now, I can't even get my bolt threaded. Is it going the wrong way or something? I don't know why my brand new safety tab doesn't work, but my brand new safety tab doesn't work. There's not enough room for the bolt to go through. What the hell? Why is it so hard? You know what I mean? Like, just make a better design. Remember square taper where you could just bolt them on? The good old days? Back in the aughts? Hey guys, there's two different size safety clips. Look at that, this is the new one, and this is the old one. Oh, I mean, Hollowtech 2 left crank arm safety plate, Shimano. Doesn't say anything about sizes or anything, right? So the hole to pin ratio is the exact same, and I confirmed that it fits, that everything's fine. It's in the right position. So all we have then is just the cover your ass in case this loosens up safety catch thing, right? And this pin is sheared off. Basically, I feel like I have to, you know, put that back in, but it's totally pointless. It's just gonna be flopping around in there. Or I could just break off that part. That's what I'll do. Just gonna cut that part off and then the pin's still in there. That'll fit. Okay, so the Here's the safety guy. The pin drops into the hole. It's fine. So if the pin drops into the hole, you're in the ballpark of safety. There's plenty of spline showing here. Or there's actually no spline showing there, so we're getting a good grip on things. Okay, so that's tightened all the way down. I think I need to add a spacer. Yeah, I'm gonna need to add a spacer, which is going to slightly affect how well that plastic sleeve seals, but half a millimeter or millimeter isn't gonna change much. Now here's my Q factor concern. So that is 23.5 millimeters. And that is, oh wait, did I measure that other side right? Hold on, double check. Okay, I'm gonna call that other side 24 millimeters. And this is 26, almost 7. So I can add another spacer to the non-drive side cup, which actually had more threads on it anyway. I don't wanna go bonkers here, but I have this little spacer. I'm gonna put that on the other side. Okay, so if you go by the books, right, it's just use a mountain bottom bracket with mountain cranks, okay? But again, I'm gonna remind you that the Q factor from the books, this is not happening. I know I've got like one of those other tools. Don't know where it is. All right, and then as always, use a torque wrench on these bolts. That's the one thing I did know about these. And the torque spec isn't as important as just making them even. I'm okay with that. Tell me why I'm not. Okay, so that side is 27. I might use the smaller spacer just because I'm worried about how many threads I've got over there. And I mean, that's 25 now. So, I mean, am I gonna sweat it? It was way further off from the factory and it's not that big of a deal, but it bugs me. I think people pointed out is I went through and tightened all of these screws and they were like, oh, these things tear up your shins and he probably did it on purpose and all these other reasons. And you were right about that too. He did back all these off because they were too grippy. And I said, oh, I'm sorry, I jumped, I made some assumptions and I realized that I'm wrong and I'll definitely correct that if you want me to. And he's like, no, it's fine the way it is. So he let me leave him. And he said if it drives him crazy or whatever, but he's like, it did feel a lot grippier. And to that, I'm like, why you buy these pedals if you don't want it grippy? And even if they're shorter, it's still gonna hurt like hell if it hits your shin. So that's a stupid argument. And I understand like different shoes, like, maybe you can feel the pins or whatever, but it's like, to me, instead of like half-assing all of these, I guess maybe they are nylocked, so they're supposed to be adjustable and tuned. Is that the case? I don't know, it just seems like a half-ass hacky way to do things. Like, just go buy some cheapo plastic nylon pedals with some lesser grip, if that's your concern. That's my take on that. Okay, so mechanically speaking and safety-wise and customer service-wise, all of that kind of like my business here at Gibbs Bike Shop and charging money for bicycle service and getting it wrong and making it right, my conscience is much cleaner now than it was. I guess I still am kind of cutting a corner here by using the road bearings with the mountain crank, but I think overall this is better because of the Q factor issue. I think everything's just fine in there, and it's, like, just because the books say it's supposed to be that way doesn't always necessarily mean that it's supposed to be that way. There are mechanical things we can do, and people do it all the time to their own bikes. Some people call them upgrades. Some people call them hacks. Hacking isn't always bad. Sometimes having some sort of like mechanical ability or problem solving or whatever is good, and you can add value to things. I think I do it all the time with my used bikes, that I do little things to, change the original design that maybe is there because of a safety reason or some sort of other mitigating factor that takes away from the overall performance. And I do think it is my right to do that. In this case, definitely I lack the expertise required to get this right the first time, so I appreciate all of the help. Thank you for your helpful comments. It really, really bothered me the other day when I was reading those comments, and I'm like, oh shit, that bike is out there in the world and it's wrong and it could be unsafe. All of that really bugs me when that happens, because I am mostly, personally, I feel like I'm a steward of these machines and I'm not necessarily always customer focused, and I was called out for that. And I'd like to talk about that a little bit. I think part of it's my personality and just my life philosophy or whatever, but I really am bicycle first, machine first, and I say I'm a bike mechanic first, I'm a rider second, and a retailer third, and perhaps I shouldn't be in this business. A lot of people are like, you should know better, you should do better, you should take your time, and I think there's a lot of truth to that. Because of my personality and just the way I am, the way I'm wired, my natural tendency isn't to do that. So I do need help in that department, and I do try to correct it when I get it wrong, and I hope that's what I'm getting across in this video. I am a mistaker. I've been open about that. I make mistakes. I do it all the time. I try to correct them, and I'm not perfect, and neither are any of you. And it really does bother me, and it probably shouldn't, when people come at me as if they are perfect and I am not. It's like, no, we're kind of all in this thing together. What I'm reacting to is, it's a dignity violation of sorts, is like the technical armchair psychologist analysis of it, or definition for what happened. I know your intentions were good, but you're doing it wrong. A lot of you, but a lot of you got it right too. And for those of you that didn't even notice and just loved the video, because it really was the best video of the last 10, the video performed very well. I thought it was a great video. It's an awesome bike. All of that is also true. Two things can be true at once. It can be the best video I've ever produced, and also probably the largest mistake I've ever put on camera. Now, for the first year or year and a half of doing this channel, I wouldn't even mention that I was reselling these bikes. I would just fix them and have it be about bike fixing, and didn't even really want it out there that, I was hacking these bikes together and reselling them. But I realized that it doesn't really matter. It's like people that are selling cars on Craigslist or Marketplace, and they like put their thumb over the license plate, right? Because they don't want people to see their license plate, but They'd just been driving around their whole lives with their license plate out to the whole world. Like anybody can see that's that guy in there in that car with that license plate. Like what difference does it make if you show that picture online? Like it never has made sense to me. And so I apply that same philosophy. It's like, well, you know, anybody can come into my bike shop anytime. It's theoretically open to the public and look at what I've got and how I do it and decide for themselves if they're going to buy it. And I have insurance for that. It's just normal mercantilism, right? Is it mercantilism? It's retail. It's just a business. It's just a small business. That's all it is. Yes, I try to get it right and I try to do the best I can. Part of doing it the best I can is being efficient and being profitable and using my time wisely, and all of those factors get factored in, and that can be difficult. Also, this one was, it wasn't written up right in the first place, and that's on me too, because I'm supposed to train my employees to get it right every time, and probably shouldn't be leaving them here alone, and it was wrong, and I didn't call the customer, and I did so many things wrong. I really should have gotten it right, but I didn't. And thank you for pointing it out. I hope I've made it right. I'm probably making a way bigger deal of this than I need to, but these are the things that I think about, because what I'm trying to say is it's lonely at the top. I don't have anybody to go with this stuff. I have you guys. I have this channel. I love that I can be vulnerable and authentic and warts and all with YouTube. You know, I expose myself to this level of criticism, and it sucks a lot of the time, but I can learn from it, and I think it makes me a better person. So I'm gonna keep doing it this way. You know, I wish that I got fancier bikes in here because it makes for better content. However, I don't really know what I'm doing. Frankly, it's not fun for me to look everything up on every single project and make sure that I get it right. And it's also what the market's demanding around me. It's the hole I'm filling, it's my niche, is these older bikes where they're, you know, it's kind of no-brainer stuff, and I know it. That's easier for me to do, and I'm a lazy bum. And that's very clear and evident from these last two videos. The stuff that I did here, there's a lot out there online, but none of it's really clear. Different opinions and different ways of explaining it, and people throwing out different numbers and measurements that matter, and it doesn't cover it all, and it doesn't satisfy everything. And there is some wiggle room here and ability to play around with things and adjustability and that sort of thing. And there kind of always has been with bottom brackets and crank sets and frames. And sometimes we just have to make it work, which I believe we did. Anyway, what a rant, what a journey. I'm glad it's over. I am not looking forward to editing this even. I just want to move on with life. But here it is. Warts and all, customer is very happy with how this bike is performing, and I am too. It's a great bike. It'll last him the rest of his life, and anybody who has one should feel fortunate. Nice FSA headsets. I mean, they just set these things up to be bomb-proof. Anyway, send me taco money. I love you all dearly. Don't forget to click the notification bell so you and your bikes can stay tuned.